Biodynamic coffee is possibly the best coffee I have ever had. I had the opportunity of having a conversation with Henrique Sloper, the CEO and manager of Camocim Organics, which is an organic biodynamic coffee producer in Brazil. One of the really cool things about their plantation is they actually have their coffee plants planted in the forest. And he's going to tell us all about why they're using biodynamic practices, the benefits that they've seen, what makes their coffee so flavorful and so famous around the world, and what we can glean from working with nature and with the biodynamic principles. I'm Natalie Forstbauer, founder and editor-in-chief of Heart and Soul magazine. Enjoy the conversation with Henrique Sloper. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and subscribe to our magazine. It's just $39.99 a year, and it's all about global regeneration, regenerative farming, gardening, and living, how you can live your best life regeneratively. You make yourself an amazing day. Enjoy the conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm ready to talk about soil and weather and climate change and all that stuff that we've been doing for the last 20 years.
Maybe you could share with us how you got started.
I began in 1962 with my grandfather. My grandfather was a man from the north of Brazil, came from poor origins, and was a tree lover all his life. He came from Ceará, which is the reason it's called Camocim. Camocim is a beach on the state of Ceará, and it used to be the major export port to Europe and to the US before the 50s, before the port of Fortaleza was constructed. So it was a shipping port, and my great-grandfather worked with doing shipping of war goods to Europe. Mm-hmm. So everything you can imagine as a war ration, dried biscuit, coffee, feed the spirit. That's what this business was, exporting that to mostly to England. And my grandfather was born there, so that's the reason it's called Camocim. It's a beautiful little town. Now it's the mecca for kite surfers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's amazing there. It's really places around there that are more famous, like Jericoacoara, and there's another one that has a pretty funny name. I'm not a kite surfer, I'm a surfer. So okay. I didn't know about kite surfing a lot. Okay. But anyway, and that's the reason it's called Camocim. 2 days ago, I had a panther in my farm. So that's something.
That's amazing.
Something we haven't seen in the last 20 years, at least. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, it really is something to see, because it's a success story. There's other people around us that are involved in the same project. Mm-hmm. And it began around the 70s. They decided to open a agroforestry system to farm wood for sustainable mm-hmm. wood production. So mm-hmm. I still do that, by the way. Camocim has 2 farms. My brother is another farm called Atalaya. I take care of both. Yeah. My brother lives in Rio. He's a financial market guy. He doesn't care a lot about what I'm doing, but I do care about the land that we inherited. So I'm kind of the nursery of his farm, and it's 320 hectares in total, which is not big for Brazil, but for the region it's pretty big. Yeah. And close to us, we have a national park now called Parque da Pedra Azul, Blue Rock Park. It's a state park, 4,100 hectare area. So we are. If you send me your WhatsApp connection, I will send you a location. You open it up, you'll see everything is green.
Okay.
So 50 years ago, everything was brown. There's only soil and not good soil at all.
So that's amazing. That's amazing.
And it began with eucalyptus plantation and legislation. and Brazilian, our environmental laws. Do you know anything about that?
Not a lot.
Well, here you go. If you follow the law in Brazil, the federal law, the forestry law, you will be able to certify yourself in any certifying agency of the world. So our laws are some of the toughest in the world concerning preservation.
Wow.
It means they are written down on a paper. It doesn't mean that they are taken care of. No, the government here, especially this government that we have right now, they don't care much about the law, and they do want. So the law is there. It's the forestry law from 1964, and it obliged to preserve, in my case, 25% of the preservation, 100% preservation around the riverbeds, around the water springs. In practical terms, we're talking about 30%. It has to be preservation. If you have water there, it can be more. This is for the southwest of Brazil. It's called the Mata Atlântica, the Atlantic rainforest. It's a stretch of forest that goes all the way from the north of Brazil down to the south. Okay, if you move inside to the Cerrado region, which is more of a deserty kind of climate and a deserty kind of vegetation, there is 45% of preservation. And if you go to the Amazon, it's 80% of preservation. So it means if you own 1 hectare of land, you can only use 20,000 square meters. So that's the law, okay? And I have a really hard time taking care of that. Depends on political views, political situations more than anything, because the law is there. I mean, you should go to jail if you cut down a tree in the Amazon. It's not happening at this point, but we have the laws. So, yeah, and aside from that, I'm organic since 1996. So my grandfather planted the forest in the 70s, and then when we began with the coffee, it was already agroforestry system. So what I did, also a nature lover, surfer all my life. You know, I'm a walker. It's part of myself, part of my education, part of the example that I had in my family. And I started to research about how I could do coffee without cutting down the forest. And that was a 1.5-year period of traveling around the world, looking at agroforestry systems that were already in place at that point: Costa Rica, Panama, where else did I go? Oh God, I went to Indonesia, went to a bunch of places. So actually I was surfing and looking at coffee, okay, for 2 years of my life, which is really good.
Yeah.
Very special period. So that my model is a model inspired on the Costa Rica model. And at point 96, Costa Rica was already a national park country. You know, everything's very well preserved there. They had a lot of already systems in place, mostly because immigration, people wanted to preserve the land. And I saw that happen there also. So even some of my varietals come from Costa Rica.
Oh, neat.
I'm going back in November to check a new varietal that they have. They just came up with a new varietal that's highly productive and designed for organic farming.
Really?
So, yeah. I'm going with a bunch of scientists from an institute close to my farm.
Okay.
And now everybody wants to know about this. At least that's a good thing. I don't know if
it
is.
It is such a it is such a good thing. When I was in Brazil, actually, I went to Botucatu, the Biodynamic Institute that's there. But I think that's like west of where you are.
Oh, Botucatu.
Yeah.
Botucatu. Yeah, great. So that's where my friends are. That's where my certifying agency. Yes, they're from Botucatu. It's called IBD, Instituto Biodynamico. Those are the Demeter
Yes,
certified guys. Those are the
that's
guys
right.
certified Demeter agriculture. Yeah, these are very
Yeah.
good friends, and we also do the BioFAC together every year in Germany. So these are people that I
Okay.
admire a lot, and they taught me a lot. I learned a lot from them. I was lucky to have one person from Botucatu, a woman called Raquel Soraji, and she put it in my vein. You know, I was already going in that direction, but I had a professional, really talented woman. She used to do, she's kind of retired now, but she went from the nuts in the Amazon all the way to rice in the south of Brazil. So she cocoa, beans, coffee, fruits, plants, trees, everything. She's a master of biodynamics. And
Wow.
I hired her by chance. So it's like my grandfather really liked her. They said, "Wow, yeah, she's a really interesting woman. Let's hire her." And at this point, I had a agronomist that was fully chemical guy. I fired the guy. I put her in place, and I said, "Now you do your thing, and I'll do my thing, which is selling the coffee." I'm a marketing guy. I
Yeah.
went to school in California,
Okay.
marketing at UCLA. Yeah,
Wow.
and
That's neat.
yeah, I have American roots. I have an American daughter. My oldest daughter was born in the US.
Oh, really? Well, that's neat.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Henrique, so did you start your biodynamic journey in 1996, or is that the year you certified
Oh,
biodynamics?
no, that's when I began my organic journey, okay? From day one. We never put
Okay.
chemical. And then the biodynamic thing came to me through a wine guy that came to visit me. And I took him up to the farm. His wine importer was in the city of Vitoria. Vitoria
Mhm.
is a major port in my state where we export the coffee from. And he was there with the importer. The importer asked me to receive him as a visitor for a day, spend a day trip there with us. It's a
Mhm.
French guy called Nicolas Joly. This guy he's another planet. And he went to my farm and he looked around and he saw that nature and the coffee trees grow inside the forest, completely chaotic, nothing like, nature is not perfect. Nature is imperfect. All these monocultures that you see around the world, they're not natural at all.
No.
If you yourself, you have a place is different from one, and you have a point in your face. Sometimes it's not like this monoculture idea is terrible. It's the chemical agriculture.
Mhm.
And this is changing. I mean, the consumer wants something different now. So
Mhm.
they now have to look at this. Anyway, going back to Nicholas, and Nicholas said, "Enrique, you dynamic. What's that?" I said, "Well, uh, they are here." I said, "Who's here?" "Well, the elemental beings are living here now." Okay, now you have to tell me all about this. And then we became, I'm cutting the story short. We
Yeah.
became really good friends. And I went to visit him in France many, many times. And this guy grows a wine in a region called, it's close to the Rhone River. It's famous for its whites. It's the Loire Valley, where you have all the castles in the Loire, next to the Loire, and
Mhm.
it grows on rocks. I mean, it's not on soil, it's rocks. It's amazing what he does.
Wow.
And he's been growing wine there since
Yeah.
1130. So this
Wow.
1000 years land use. So that's, I mean, something special there. Huh? If you're using the same land for 1000 years and you're still producing something, it means you're doing something good.
Yes. And in rocks,
Land
nonetheless.
itself. And he's very much a guru for that. Yeah. So I can send you all this information and you check Nicholas out. Nicholas is part of a group called Renaissance des Appellations, and
Mhm.
in English is Return to Terroir. You
Mhm.
have some wine growers in America that follow his lead, but there's people from all over the world, from Australia, from mostly from France, or from Germany, from Hungary, even from Georgia, ex-Russian colony.
Mhm.
It's a very interesting group. I learned a lot from them. especially about the preparations and the use of the preparations. And really changed my life 2008. I began in 2008, so it's been 13 years now. And then I saw the plants completely change.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Tell me about,
the path.
yeah, tell me about what your farm was like before and the land was like before you went into the Demeter biodynamic certification, and what it and how it woke up and what the difference was.
The biggest difference for me was the near elimination of all the coffee related diseases, you know, the fungal diseases. We have a bunch of things that affects the coffee, the disease related to an imbalance in the environment.
Mhm.
So it's either insect infestation or fungal disease infestation. And what happened when I started using the preparations and I started following the calendar with the moon cycle, with the solar cycle, with the astronomical cycle, my plants slowly eliminated the diseases and then created a different flavor profile, which is interesting. We have more mucilage in the fruits. The fruits are much richer in terms of content. They last long. There's less oxidation happens in wine also. Same thing. If you open up biodynamic wine, you can drink it for a week. Try doing that with a chemically grown wine. It will turn into vinegar in 2 days. So an apple, a banana, I mean, it's visible. And also there's now research about that, about the nutrient factor involved in biodynamic growing. In some areas, it's more than others, but definitely in my experience now doing this for so many years now, and exporting the coffee overseas, sometimes it's a big challenge. The coffee sits in a ship for 60 days. I mean, to Australia, for example, it's a 60-day trip in the ocean. So, and I had experience of the coffee getting there and tasting better than when it left.
Wow.
And in the other direction, if you do that with chemical coffee, it's going to get old. I mean, it will decrease the quality for sure.
Yeah.
And that's empirical knowledge. It's nothing. There's no research about that. But I see it. I feel it. My clients feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's satisfied with the work that we're doing. We're still learning, with especially with the preparations, which is also always a challenge to be able to grow the preparations at the farm and to produce them at the farm.
Yeah.
The horns are hard to find.
Yeah.
The manure has to be a good quality manure. The plants that we have to grow here, some of them are European plants. So like the oak bark, there's no oak in Brazil. So we have to buy from Botucatu. We have to buy that preparation.
Yeah.
But like 80% of everything we do. So biodynamics changed the agriculture in my farm, the level of quality of the product, the longevity of the products. And obviously it created an unbelievable quality soil. So if you go to my farm, the soil is alive. You can smell it, you can feel it, if you touch it, you can feel the difference. From a regularly treated soil, to us, it's like drinking commercial coffee, drinking specialty coffee.
Yes, yes.
The difference is smellable, it's tastable. I mean, it's really something that changed the way that we do agriculture. And now with all this thing going on with the pandemic, came in our direction in a positive way, and it means that people are interested with the climate change thing, the pandemic, everything coming together now, forcing people to reassign their priorities in terms of agriculture. And the consumer, the end consumer, which is the end of the day, the guy that appreciates what we're doing, he really now he has time to research. We have all these devices that we use now, easy to find out everything, and we have more time in our hands. Everybody's cooking again, so we have to cook at home. You can go out. So the tendency for me is more and more demand for these kinds of products that are more sustainable in terms of production. Every political system in the world has to rethink itself. And to be able to change this, you need government policies put in place.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes time. You just saw what happened with in the change of view, the change of positioning in terms of the environment. It can go from heaven to hell. So God, we depend on these people. It's really terrible. But I see hope. I see light at the end of the tunnel, mostly because the end consumer wants it. So the guy that's drinking my coffee, he wants to know what I'm doing, how's the soil quality. So it's three things basically. It's carbon emission, carbon sequestration, soil quality, and water preservation. So if you're doing agriculture in the way that we do at Camocim, you're taking care of these three. And this is something that normal people understand now, because we can feel the effect of the weather change. And that's affecting everybody's lives. I mean, we had this crazy ice age 2 months ago here in Brazil that froze most of the coffee lands in the south of Minas, which is the biggest and largest producing area of Brazil. And we lost like 10 million bags of coffee. Give you an idea what that means. Colombia makes 12 million bags. Colombia, the whole country. So we lost one Colombia in 48 hours.
My gosh.
And there was a crazy freeze. We hadn't seen that since 1994, something like that. And that really affected the coffee prices. So the coffee prices exploded. So there's less coffee in the world right now. And now everybody's more and more looking out, wow, what can we do? I mean, if you had the canopies on top of the coffee, it will be 80% safe.
Right. And you have
Obviously,
the
it would
canopies.
affect the cost. Yes. Yes, we learned how to do that. I was still learning about trees. What's to consociate with coffee. So now there's types of trees, Brazilian and exotic, that lose their foliage structure in the winter. So it's very much like you guys have, the Canadian maple tree.
Yeah.
There you go. We have in the farm now, we mostly use that kind of tree. It's not the Canadian one. It's a parent of the Canadian one. And it's also very beautiful because it's green in the summer, and it turns yellow, it turns either purple or orange, and then it goes bald. And then the cycle begins again every year. So, and that tree, the leaf has a lot of phosphorus, which is really good for the coffee. We have to replenish minerals in coffee. Every year you have to do that. And otherwise you won't have quality and you won't have production. So coffee demands a lot of chemicals, of good chemicals in the land, not the industrial chemicals. And also microbiological life to digest and create a foliar root system that's completely different. So if you dig out a tree in my farm, and you dig out a tree from the land, and I've done this many times as a demonstration for people that go there, and you get a tree from a chemical farm, the root system is completely different. It's like my coffee is like a black power root system. Like, wow, God, airy and beautiful. And the other one's like me going bald, Sorry. Anyway.
That's such a good visual.
The short story. It's about soil. What guys, Demeter is a soil restoration technique. That's what it is. Okay, that's the effect. End of the day, you have the side, the spiritual side, the energy side, but people have a hard time to understand those because everybody has their own way of looking at energy, at religion, and if you sometimes I tell people I bury horns in the ground. They think I'm like a guy from Africa, some kind of weird, I don't know, witch doctor or something like that. And this is a technique to replenish life to the soil, and it really works. So wrote agriculture in 1924, concerned about one thing only: the quality of the soil in post-war Europe that was completely destroyed by a war of attrition. The First World War, the guys were sitting in trenches, bombing each other. There's no airplane, there's no missile, nothing. You probably you've read about that, you've studied that in your lifetime. And destroyed the soils of Germany, France. England wasn't affected because they were away, but Central Europe was completely destroyed. The soil was full of bombs and carbon and everything. That's when that's when the chemical agriculture was born, right there. So Steiner wrote Biodynamics, the book on agriculture, and the main purpose of doing that was to give back people foodstuffs that had nutritional value, because they've completely lost the quality of everything, from potatoes to grapes. Everything went bust. I mean, the quality of the food products were really bad. And there was a big famine in Europe at this point. So that's the reason he wrote agriculture. And there's a lot of talk about that even in Botucatu. You have the left-wing guys, you have the right-wing guys. I'm in the middle. I'm very pragmatic. I see this, and the way you have to expand this is put the big guys in the system. You have to talk to Nestle. You have to talk to JDE. You have to talk to Procter and Gamble. You have to talk to these guys. And we'll be talking to them for a long time. Nestle has been to my farm a bunch of times. But now the customer is talking on the other side.
Yes.
Say, no, we don't want this glyphosate anymore. We don't want this. The tragic reality was still using it. And in Brazil, it's 5 kilos of agrochemicals per person per year that we use. Yeah. So with our environmental laws, so it's a really strange situation here. But now everybody wants to be sustainable. Okay, now Shell is sustainable, Exxon is sustainable, Petrobras is sustainable, the petroleum industry. So what they do is they compensate whatever they're doing, destroying the environment by helping some African guy or some guy in Indonesia, I don't know, and even here in Brazil also. I think there's a huge pressure, and things will change. There's no other way. There's no other path. We are going in the path. It's only a matter of speeding up things. But soil correction takes longer. It's not a yearly thing. It will take a few years, maybe a few decades before you see the real effect of that. And you have now the difference between when I began and today is today we have a lot of more people involved. We have a lot of research already that we didn't have when I began, showcasing. This is an ongoing thing. I'm in a discussion group with Demeter worldwide. That's the reason we're talking about this, but mainly in Europe, a lot in Europe, much less in the US and this side of the world. That's where Demeter was born. So they have a strong culture in that. I mean, Germany, forget, Switzerland just tried to ban any kind of agrochemical in the country about 2 months ago. They were passing a law. They were not able to do it because, maybe there's the 3 biggest producers of venom in the world are Swiss. So it was very close. It was like a vote. It was a popular vote. So just to see that the country doing a referendum, asking people if they want to have agrochemicals in their land or not, this is a huge thing. I mean, just the idea of that happening. Yeah, so it's something I never imagined I would see in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And
a small guy, that will be always doing that little thing there with the trees in Espírito Santo, and suddenly, boom. Now I have to demand from every country in the world, and it's driving me crazy. But there's a good side. I was 2 farms, now we are 7 in a space of 2 years. So I guess in
Wow.
another 2 years, we're gonna be 20, 30 farms around me. My
Nice.
area is a smallholder area. So we are in the region of Brazil where the average size of a privately owned property for agriculture is 7 hectares. So it's very small. It's all family oriented. A lot of families, 80% is families. So we don't have the big guys there because it's very hilly. It's hard to, you can't mechanize anything. It has to be done by hand. Everything has to be, manual labor. And that's when the families come in. So it's a beautiful region of Brazil. You should come back.
I would love to come back to Brazil. Yeah, one of my favorite places. So how many
Don't go
hectares
to
did
the big cities. Stay away from the big cities because we are in
Okay.
trouble. But
Okay.
in Brazil is amazing what's going on.
Yeah. How many hectares did you say the average farm is there?
Now today we have in total around in coffee around 110 hectares of planted coffee in the 7 farms. And total hectares today will be around 400, 450.
Okay.
So,
And there's about 2.5 acres in a hectare. So I was just thinking
Yeah.
like the average farm, the average
Yeah.
small privately owned farm is how many hectares?
7.
7. So that's about 20 acres or so.
So that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, you have to preserve 25% plus the rivers, plus the water springs, and if you have a lake, natural lake, also around the lake,
Yeah.
you need at least 50 meters around all these waterways that you can't do anything.
Oh,
So,
wow.
depending on and there, because I'm in a region that has a national park, 2 kilometers from my farm, there's a lot of environmental police. So if you fool around there, you get in trouble. It's not the case of the Amazon, because Amazon is giant rainforest. It's hard to even go there. Imagine taking care of all that giant piece of green.
I
You
can't
need
imagine.
thousands
It's
and thousands of people just looking at it every day.
yeah.
And hard to patrol in any way. Mine is easy because we're right there next to a big town. Victoria is 90 kilometers from my farm. We got the resources, we got roads everywhere. So don't fool around in my region. You'll go to jail.
Wow.
And there's a lot of examples in my farm. Yeah, we used to be a hunting area also. There's no more hunters there at all. They're
Really?
all gone. Yeah, they went to other places of the state and of the country. Anyway.
Amazing. So, Henrique, what advice would you give to new farmers going into farming today?
I would say look into agroforestry systems. Anything that you're doing, any kind of culture can be adapted to agroforestry. Because then what happens, there's no irrigation necessary because the water is in the soil. So my soil is my water deposit. And then you have the natural springs coming back. That happened in our farm. Our farm has 9 natural springs. When we got there was nothing. There was no spring. Yeah. Well, we are really a cause and effect case of what happens if you take care of things. And this was not really planned at all. It was just something that my grandfather had in his mind. Maybe because he came from this poor area of the north of Brazil, which is a desert land. It's very much like Baja California.
Yeah.
Something like that. There's shrubbery everywhere. There's no trees. And it's a very poor area of Brazil, Ceará. And he had 3 things in mind: trees and water, trees and water, trees and water. So I have a lot of water and a lot of trees now.
That's amazing. So tell me more. Tell me more of what happened. So your soil improved, the flavor of your coffee improved. You had 9 natural springs that popped up that weren't there before. And what else have you noticed?
Well, my life improved myself, huh? I went out of the I went
what's improved?
back to my roots of being a sporting surfer guy. I was living in Rio for many years and traveling around the world. And I lost 15 pounds, you know, I'm fit and walking around, and it's a different lifestyle. And even the consumption habits change a lot, huh? So, you know, even with this pandemic, it's another good thing. You don't need a lot to live. You don't need a lot of consumer goods to be happy.
That's right.
You know, you were not able to shop for a year and a half, so you didn't die because of that. You don't need a new shoe. You don't need a new iPhone every year. You don't need a new car every year. Nothing. You don't need that. So that and the new generation. I mean, my daughters, they don't own anything. So you guys don't want an apartment? No, we don't want an apartment. We want to move around. So why do I going to buy an apartment? No. You want a car? No, we don't want a car. We'll just use Uber. We don't need car. The car. My youngest one doesn't have a driving license.
Oh, wow.
I said, what are you doing? I mean, if you go to some weird place, you need to rent a car, you can't drive. And I taught her how to drive, but she said, no, Dad, I don't need a driving license. I'm not going anywhere where I can get an Uber. I said, okay, good.
That's amazing.
Different values that are in the mindset of these younger people.
Oh, that gives me goosebumps. It is great news. And, you know, as you're sharing that, I'm thinking of, you know, when I traveled different parts of the world, and I could always get around without a car. There are buses, there's trains, there's taxis.
But listen, Brazil, if you come here, you don't have public transport. Some areas of Brazil, it's nothing. So you need to know how to drive. Otherwise, you won't move around. The nice areas of Brazil don't have public transport.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I do remember that. I do remember being in Botucatu and there's no public transport. People drove around. Yeah.
Town doesn't have public transport. It's either bicycle, walking, or motorcycle.
Yeah.
Well, everybody has a little motorcycle or a bicycle or walks around. And, and then you use a car also, but only when it rains. Otherwise, it's walking around and riding by.
And you need a driver's license for a motorcycle.
Yeah, I'm a motorcyclist also, so I ride my motorbike a lot.
Oh, nice.
I'm happy. I'm in nature.
That's
actually for the first time in my life. I've never spent so much time in my farm. I was always out of the country selling my products. I spent, I don't know, maybe 10 years of my life doing that. Wow. And I ran the specialty coffee association in Brazil for a year and a half of my life. So that was even worse because I was doing trade shows, 17 trade shows per year and everywhere. You tell me, Russia, middle of Russia, China, middle of China, Australia, there's some nice places, huh? Australia, New Zealand, that's, but try going to Russia in the middle of nowhere. It was actually really fun. I enjoyed Russia a lot, but China, not so much. No, China, I won't go back. Only if I'm obliged to go there.
There you go.
Anyway,
what's been
America a lot. Anyway,
what's been
everywhere?
What's been the most favorite part of being back on the farm for you?
Looking at myself. Discovering.
Tell me more about that.
A guy that was forgotten completely in a drawer. I open the drawer again. Oh, there it pops out. What are you doing? Why? No, stop right now. Let's rethink everything. And just a lifestyle, just being able to be there. I mean, I'm in a very easy region to live because we have everything there. It's not like living in the middle of the Amazon. No, completely different. I'm 90 kilometers from a major town. So if I need a doctor, if I need a hospital, if I need whatever, and I can come to Rio also, which I don't enjoy very much anymore, mostly because some of my medical guys are still in Rio. So I'm here to do a checkup and to just be able to appreciate the changes that I had in my body and my mind. And it's going really well. I'm really happy about that because the results are amazing of the different lifestyle. And you know, I used to live in a big town. Rio is 7 million people. Yeah. Now I live in a town that's 12,000. Wow. But I'm much happier there than I was here. So, and it takes time to adapt. Huh? It takes time to get out of the urban noise and go into the natural noise. So I'm
Yes.
sleeping with toads and animals and everything, and birds and cats and dogs and panthers. And before that, I was living with a bunch of crazy people in the streets and stuff like that, cars running around. No, I don't miss the urban life anymore. That the biggest change for me was mostly a personal change, because the farm was already doing what it's doing for a long time. I was just a passenger at that point. Now now I'm commanding the ship, and it
Wow.
changed a lot. So that I was able to do what I should have done 10 years ago, but then there was no demand. So things happen when they have to happen. And I think now there's
Yeah.
added pressure for change, and I see that everywhere I go. So I think your work's amazing. Yeah, by the way, I was looking at your writing and your stuff and your magazine. Wow. I said to myself, wow, 20 years ago, this never would exist. Never. You would be a failure, complete failure. How long have you been doing that yourself? Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, we just launched Heart and Soil in January. And I was born on and raised on an organic and biodynamic farm. It's Demeter certified now, but it wasn't Demeter certified when I was being raised. And then I went in and studied alternative medicine and polarity therapy, which is based in Ayurvedic medicine and ancient Hermetic sciences and Chinese medicine. And that was when I was about 20. And then I acquired a major brain injury in 2003. And went on a bit of a healing journey, and really thought that coming out of it, I would be speaking to brain health and all things brain health, the way we think, to the way we eat, to the neuroplasticity, to the neuroscience of it. And then as I deepened into that, I realized that what was really on my heart was speaking about and being a voice for global regeneration, because if we don't have an earth to live on, then we don't have a place to talk about brain health. Right. So
well, there are not going to be many brains around.
No. So when we first hopped on the call, Henrique, you said,
whereabouts was that? Where were you born?
I was born when or where?
Where?
In BC. in BC, I'm okay with it anyways. In BC, Canada, so in the Fraser Valley, just south of Vancouver.
Great area.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah.
I've been there many times. I love it there.
Me too. Yeah, it's really nice. Awesome. And now I live in Saskatchewan, which is in central Canada, and it's a very different climate. It's cold winters, hotter summers. It's really dry. Yeah, so it's good.
I'm working with some really interesting guys in Canada called Holistic Coffee Roasters. Have you heard about
really?
This?
No, I'd love to connect with them.
Really, really good. I'll send it to WhatsApp. They're great. I mean, they're all focused on Demeter certified coffee. That's what we're doing. And we just closed a big deal with a online retailer called oh my God, Dr. Mercola. Have you heard about
Dr. Mercola? Yeah, I have. Yeah. That's coffee. Great. Pardon me?
Holistic roasts a coffee and does a private label for, they have their own label, which is really, really nice. And they do the private label for Dr. Mercola. And just began. I just sent the first container to the guys. So this is something we worked on for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's harder. It's
really
I've actually sorry, we have a bit of a delay.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I remember the first time I tried biodynamic coffee and was blown away by the difference in flavor. And I wasn't really a coffee drinker then, but I like to taste things. And I think it was one of the first full cups of coffee that I actually drank without anything in it. It was that good.
Yeah. So it speaks for itself, Natalie. I don't have to do much,
No, it's a totally different experience.
Yeah. And then whatever, the cup talks. And that's everything, Natalie. Everything biodynamic is better.
It is, yeah.
Biodynamic that's worse. I've never had an experience in my life.
No.
I have seen biodynamic farming dirty, which is a different thing.
Mhm.
Okay, because there's lack of hygiene will affect any kind of agricultural product, and I've seen that. And it was very much the case in the past when we had the hippie thing going on, and a lot of people still see what we are doing as a hippie technique, a hippie lifestyle.
Mhm.
You know, it's nothing about that. I have nothing against hippie. I have a bunch of hippie friends, but it's like we are using modern technology in our advantage.
That's
I mean,
right. And
I have to track the stars. I have apps to track the moon phases. I have apps that track the weather. I have apps to do everything, and they're working. They're really helping.
yeah,
So
yeah, they really do make a difference.
yeah,
And when we
but go ahead.
I was just going to say, when we first hopped on the call, you said, I want to talk about soil. And I just want to hear why soil? What's your passion around soil?
Soil is everything. I mean, without soil, what can you do in terms of quality, in terms of nutritional value? I mean, soil is the number one priority in terms of agriculture. If you don't take care of that, you better have a lot, because that's what happens with these guys with the big pivots. And they just move the pivots around. And they say, now we're going to do a different culture because it's going to reach the soil again. And they fill it with chemicals again. And that will turn into sand in 20 years. There's no... You're adding salt to the soil when you add agrochemicals. You're salinizing the soil. You know everything about that, but I always talk about things that people understand. So imagine going to your garden and throwing water from the sea in your garden. Okay, what's going to happen? Everything's going to die.
Yeah.
It's more or less what they do, and that's the reason then you need more water. And then you need a lot of different things. And then it's like a drug addict. You know, it's more and more and more and more until you die. And then you go and start all over again in another place. So I think without the soil, and that again, Demeter, soil enrichment, without these techniques, and that's not only Demeter, there are other ones also that I'm not very familiar with. There's a lot of solutions nowadays with the technology. I see even the bigger companies now looking at this and try to go biochemical. They give really nice names to the products.
Yeah, they do.
So it's a marketing strategy more than anything, but there's some good stuff going on. I mean, with the algae products, with the products from the sea, with the bone marrows, a lot of things that are happening that are also enrichment techniques. So I love the feeling of doing that more than anything. And from then we can do anything that we want. So actually we're blessed in Brazil with our climate, with the possibility of producing anything that you can imagine. In my industry, Brazil is the only country that can do coffee in any way, with any varietal, at any altitude. It's really something what's going on here, big change. And there's a lot of research now that was not available to us in the past. So that's it.
Yeah. And so Demeter really focuses part of Demeter then is building soil health. And you mentioned preparations, you mentioned agroecology, which I love how you linked agroecology with Demeter and biodynamics, because I think that's something that isn't talked about a lot, and people who aren't familiar with Demeter or biodynamics, they wouldn't necessarily make the link to that. And so what else do you do to help build the soil with the way you farm?
Not much. Well, what I do is I add some kind of animal manure, and we have a lot of. I'm a lucky guy. Aside from being next to a national park, which is preserved, being surrounded by forests, I have a guy that grows organic chicken in his farm, 10 kilometers from my farm. So I go there, I buy the manure from him, and actually this is the big challenge. For coffee. Coffee demands, like I told you, replenishment of minerals as it needs a rich soil, contrary to grapes that like poor soil. The root system of the coffee plant is the size of the coffee plant. It's 1 meter deep. So you have to have a very good organic matter rich soil in the surface of the soil. The coffee, if it doesn't have richness in the soil, will die. And the vineyard, the vine will survive forever. It will go down 11, 10, 15. I've seen vineyards 15 meters going down looking for nourishment. It's not the case for the coffee. And with most of the tropical plants, most of the tropical forests, it needs rich soil, rich topsoil. And there's the biggest challenge, I think, for soil replenishment. You need some kind of manure. You need the compost. And where do you find this compost? Because most of the animals grown in the world are also not organic or biodynamic, by the way. So the quality of the manure is really bad. You know, we fill the cows and the sheep, and the chicken with antibiotics, with vaccines for this, for that, for that, for that. And this is just all about an imbalance. It's the same thing with me and you. If you have a balanced lifestyle, I mean, I tried to get COVID-19, I don't know, maybe 50 times. Running around Brazil, it's just lifestyle. There's something about the blood, I think, also. We're still in the learning stages of this disease, but it definitely affects the people that are living in the largest cities more than the people that are living in the interior. That's the story here in Brazil. And it deeply affects the people that have a bad lifestyle, that then you die. So I lost a bunch of friends here in Brazil that had a really nasty diet, and either were smoking too much or drinking too much or eating really processed food, and that really affect, and they were too fat, and then the numbers are there already. That's already known by the doctors around the world, and that's what I hear from my doctors here. They say, Henrique, listen, you stay where you are, keep on going like that, and you'll never get COVID. So okay, good. Yes. And then I use a lot of herbs, very much like you. Huh? I went into this herbal side of herbal lifestyle with everything that you can imagine. My morning smoothie is like a bomb of everything, with beets, with every kind of roots that you can imagine, cumin, turmeric, everything. It's great. Nasty looking. It tastes really good. So
that's good.
I'm fine.
That's awesome. Oh, I have
You're a survivor. You're a cancer survivor, right?
Brain injury, not cancer, brain injury. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you have to respect that.
Yeah. Yeah. I had another question, and I also want to be mindful of the time here. And it keeps coming up. Let me see if it'll come back again.
Don't worry, I'll be around. Don't remember, just call me later, call me another day.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Oh, tell me, what does regeneration mean to you?
So that's what we're doing, regeneration. That's it. So you're talking about the initiative, the regeneration. What's the name of that? Another new certification. Is that it? Regenerative organic ROC. Is that it?
The regenerative organic certification. There's a regenerative. There's regenerative. The word regenerative is being thrown around a lot right now, right? And so part of the reason I chose to have the regenerative conversation around heart and soil is because it's being so audaciously used throughout many organizations and many farming dynamics. And so I'm curious what it means to you, regeneration. And I also want to just broaden the scope and broaden the understanding for consumers and for growers and for farmers about what regeneration really is, because we can be misguided in what that can mean sometimes. And so I'm curious what that means to you personally, and then also as a Demeter farmer, what that means to you.
You're 100% right. Regeneration is being used like sustainability. It's the same thing. Now
Mhm.
it became like a nickname for doing something good.
Mhm.
And actually, what you have to do is act, is do something that makes a difference. And you can do that in your daily lifestyle in a city, just reusing your trash and reusing the rest of your food and creating a little bit of compost and growing something at home and, being more conscious about your consumption, trying to use less plastic in your life, and that's what regeneration is a term that embodies a lot of things. And I think just being more conscious about what you're doing in terms of the environment and your lifestyle and the planet, that would be regeneration for me. So in terms of soil, I already talked a lot, but I think it connects to a lot of different things. Mostly the way that human beings are affecting the planet. So we have to change the way we're doing it from exploitation to regeneration. There you go. That's a good one.
I love it.
Yeah, and that's the only way to go. We have to do it. And I mean, you're doing your work, me doing my work. We're already helping that. So
True.
act locally, think globally. That's another thing that's really, it's a good phrase that I like that one. You can have an impact in the planet if you do your homework. You don't need to be Jesus. It's not like you're a perfect person. No, Jesus was not perfect, by the way. And but you need to be conscious about what you're doing in terms of packaging. So like buying goods that have less packaging, please do that. Because I come from the fashion industry. I worked in fashion for 25 years of my life. Fashion, cosmetics. I worked in the department store business. And it always impressed me and amazed me how much money is spent in a box of nice perfume from France. The packaging is 60% of the product cost. I mean, in the end of the day, you're using maybe 20% of what you're buying, and the rest goes into a trash and goes into a landfill and becomes terrible problem for the rest of the planet. So same thing with capsules in coffee, okay? Capsule is something that we have to do something about it. Even though I have my own capsule, I try to do the best I can with a compostable capsule, compostable this, but it still depends on a processing plant. So there's nothing that you can throw in nature that disappears. That doesn't exist. Okay, that's just a dream at this point. It might exist in the future, except for paper. Paper will degrade easily. But plastics, God, guys, give me a break. We should be stopped using plastic a long time ago. And it's still going on. I mean, it's terrible. So regeneration is just that, just changing the way you're doing things and being able to do things in a different way to try to help this planet to come back a little bit, at least in the next few years. But I believe it's happening. I mean, the world leaders are worried about it. We are worried about it. You're talking to me right now. I'm in the other side of the planet, and we're talking about this. You're going to write some nice words about this. And this will slowly drain into everybody's mindset. And the pandemic just accelerated that. So there you go. That's my thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Henrique. That's awesome. Thank you. And do you have multiple coffee lines then? Because
Yes, we do. We do at the farm. At this point we have 8 production varietals, different varietals, so reds and yellows, and we are now experimenting with these new varietals that were designed for organic agriculture, which are recent. It's a recent experiment. 10 years ago they began, and I'm going to, like I told you, I'm going to Costa Rica to check out a new one that's really promising in terms of productivity, and hopefully it will be amazing. We'll bring it down to Brazil. And this is a government-sponsored thing, which is also nice. I'm going with a federal institute. It's not Henrique by himself anymore. I'm going with a bunch of PhDs And I'm like the guy that will sell this. So
Yeah,
they take me along because they know I will be able to reach the customer at the end of the
that's
chain.
great.
And
Yeah.
yes, we try to, yeah, the variation of things at the farm for two reasons. First, because I come from a wine drinking family, so we enjoy the whites and the reds. Okay, that was the first reason, believe it or not. And second reason, I wanted to spread my harvest for the largest period of time possible, so I could not have temporary labor in my farm. So
Okay.
85% of the people that work for me, they live in my farm. So I don't have the problem that people have in Brazil of hiring, a guy from Bahia to 1,000 kilometers away to come to pick coffee in my farm. And then it's this kind of an inhuman situation. You put him in a lodge for 2-3 months, picks the coffee and leaves, and you don't know what's going to happen after that. So I try to have different varietals maturation in different times of the year. So and from April till September, October, we're picking coffee. And normally in Brazil, from July to August, June, July to
Wow.
August. That's 50% of the harvest is done on those 3 months. And we go 6-7 months. So, and also we have a different relationship with the plants itself because we know our plants. It's
Yeah.
not like somebody that never been to my farm goes there and rips off the coffee off the trees. No, my guys know exactly where the problems are. They say, no, here,
Wow.
we have to prune this, we have to do this, we have to do that. So that's what the reason that I
That's
planted
really
all these different varieties.
well, that's really powerful in itself too, because then you're having people not just coming in and farming in the farm, but they're really becoming a part of the whole ecosystem of the farm.
That's Demeter, that's biodynamics.
That's right.
You're part of a living organism. You're not just
That's
a picker,
yeah,
you're there.
that's
So
really, really
it's completely,
powerful.
the
That's
vibe in my farm
powerful.
is really, really Natalie. It's amazing. I mean, everybody that goes there says, wow. I mean, I'm used to it. I
Well,
live there. I don't see much change, but people go, wow,
yeah.
this place has a different vibration. So yes,
Yeah.
it
Well,
does.
yeah, I've never been there either, but just looking at some of the pictures,
Yeah,
you can see it in the pictures. It's really, really powerful. And I can't wait to hopefully visit it one day.
come on. We're waiting for you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You'll love it. You
And
come from
then,
a Demeter family.
uh, pardon me?
You come from a Demeter family. I
Yeah,
mean, you were raised and born in a place like that. You're going to teach
yeah.
me something, I'm sure.
Well, I'm not too sure about that, but I guess we always learn from each other. So one more question. When I was doing a little more research on your coffee company, you have cafe. Is it Cafe do Jacu?
Yeah.
Cafe do
Oh, wow,
Jacu.
that's great. Oh, good.
So tell us about
There you
Cafe
go.
do Jacu.
Here we go. Very short. I have this bird that works for me every day. He's a coffee picker. He's a coffee lover. He's a coffee eater. He's an alarm of harvest. He feeds my coffee, plants coffee all over the place. Oh, this is a natural occurring bird that migrates to the farm in the months of harvest. It nests in my farm. We became a natural area for birds. That was expected. We never thought it was going to happen. There's no story like that in many farms in the world that I know that we have animal style coffees. But the thing is, this bird is a selective pick, really, really good. Only eats a nice fruit. Wherever he's eating the fruit, the to pick. So here we go. Now we got all the instruments. We measure the sugar with a Brix meter. We have everything and all the technology. But the bird is always right. So
Yeah.
became a partner in crime. And this is something exotic. I don't consider that coffee at all because it's very, very expensive to do. You have to do it grain by grain because the bird eats the different plants, not only coffee, all the tropical fruits, the banana, the mangoes, everything that's in the farm, they eat everything. So we got seeds all mixed up. So we have to manually break it down. And so it's like crazy work. But it's like 3.5, 4 tons a year that I do of that compared to 200 tons of regular coffee. So
Wow.
what it does for me, it attracts a lot of attention. So the media loves it. The TV
Yeah.
channels in Brazil, they love it. The Australian TV channel love it. The Japanese TV channel love it. And they come here and they look at it, and then I talk everything that I told you. That's the reason I love that bird more than anything. He's
Oh,
my
powerful.
inspiration to talk about what matters, which is the soil quality, the agroforestry system, the water, the carbon, everything that we just talked about. So he's like a door opener for the world. So people come here by curiosity, and in the end of the day, they say, wow, this happens because you have an environment that's really popular with these birds. And then they come and live here. And I actually have a 42-page study about that I was obliged to do when I sold coffee to Harrods in London. He wanted to make sure that I was not confining birds, because in Indonesia, we have a similar coffee, and they are confining the animals in cages to produce the coffee. So I brought the environmental police to my farm. They spent a week there, and they created this report, which I have in English. I'm more than happy to share that with you. And it's about the fauna and the flora of the farm. So they inspected everything, and they gave me like an affidavit that I'm not a bird confiner, that actually I'm feeding these birds organic fruit. So I'm saving the species, because if they eat coffee in a glyphosate farm, they're going to die from cancer. Not my case at all. So this was really an interesting, and it happened by chance. I mean, one day we're there, they're eating the coffee, and we don't know what to do. And I called the guys. I said, please, what am I? They're going to destroy the plantation. They're going to eat everything. And in the end of the day, they created something beautiful, and tasty as well. It's not my best coffee. I have better coffees than that in terms of quality, in terms of points, whatever you want to call that. But the story is, it opens the door for me to talk about what we just talked an hour.
Yeah,
And
man, that's powerful.
That's why Jacu bird is so important for us. And we are trying hard to defend this brand around the world. I'm actually spending money on that right now, because I don't want other people that don't have the systems that we have in place doing this, because then it's like fake caviar, fake truffle, fake whatever. But this is in this category of foods, Natalie. It's Harrods sells it for 1,200 pounds a kilo. Well, that's like $1,500 a kilo. It's ridiculous.
That is.
I don't get the money, by the way. Huh?
No.
No. I set it for $150 a kilo.
Wow, it's amazing the markup that happens.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
Russian oligarchs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't care. Drink the Jacu bird, please.
Yes.
Talk about it, and then I'll talk about the things that matter.
Yeah. We'll share
the farm.
We'll share the story for sure too. And well, I'm going to let you go, because we have been on for over an hour. So thank you so much, Henrique, for your time. I really deeply appreciate you sharing your heart and your story.
A lot of nice. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Grateful you joined us for that conversation and interview. If you haven't subscribed to Heart and Soil Magazine yet, head over to heartandsoilmagazine.com. Click on that subscribe button and join us for just $39.99 a year. You make yourself an amazing day, and I'm really grateful you're part of our community.